If you hold Tesla, Palantir, SoFi, or Nvidia, in this video, I'm going to cover the 4 stocks that I am holding for a very long time and giving you an update on what you need to know. So let's not waste any time and let's jump right into it. So let's go over Palantir first. Palantir stock has been an absolute rocket ship, and I said that I put $250,000 into Palantir, and I've been basically holding Palantir bicep over tricep. This is a stock that I just think has a lot of good future prospects, but even I didn't really expect it to go up this much, this fast. In the last month alone, the stock is up 40%. Absolutely insane. Now, the stock being up 40% is a bit concerning for me. However, looking at this record-breaking momentum, I can say that this stock is just very popular and is likely to continue going up despite the valuation getting worse and worse. I'm still holding my position, although I am kind of tempted to take some profits off the table. As the stock goes higher and higher, it does become more concerning for, bad overvaluation, becoming too expensive, or just simply having less future returns. Now, I'm not a fan of jumping in and out of stocks because that's short-term trading, but what I would be doing right now is strategically selling covered calls on Palantir and generating income on the shares that you have. Looking at the moving average for Palantir is way below the current stock price, and the relative strength index, which is the RSI, is now starting to become a bit overheated. This surge is actually really fueled by a lot of optimism coming from the US-China agreement to ease tariffs and, basically the strong earnings that we have been seeing from Palantir. I do believe the stock will have more further strong earnings reports, which is only going to drive the stock up higher in the future. And this stock has been kind of a roller coaster ride for investors. After earnings, it fell 12%, only to have a massive rebound and all-time record here. So overall, I'm proud to be a Palantir shareholder, although I am getting concerned. I want to point out the facts and the financial highlights because I do think that they support a valuation where Palantir is right now. But Palantir is fairly valued now, and I'm going to place a fairly valued valuation on it. So here's the highlights. The revenue was $883 million, which was a 39% increase year over year. So the US revenue specifically grew 55% year over year, totaling $628 million. US commercial revenue increased 71% year over year, surpassing a $1 billion annual run rate. Earnings per share was 13 cents, which is really nothing crazy. And actually, I want you to notice something. The reason why the PE ratio is so high for Palantir, which is basically like off the charts, it was 600, now it's 559. The reason why it's so high is because they're not really making that much earnings per share right now. But don't get this mistaken. You can go from a 13 cents earnings per share easily to 26 cents to 50 cents and so on. You can like 5x, 10x, 100x earnings over a decade. So if you think about it, over the next decade, right, let's think long term here, in 10 years, if the EPS 100x, which is very possible, right, that basically means that the PE ratio will go from 559 or basically 600 to 6. Okay, obviously 6 would be too cheap, so the stock would have to in turn kind of readjust and make sense. So 6 is too cheap. PE ratio for the S&P 500 is, right around 20-ish. So that essentially implies, based on this little example that I'm making for you right now, if Palantir 100x earnings, which is incredibly possible over 10 years, then essentially 6 PE would not make sense. To readjust the 6 PE back to like 18 to 24, which is like fairly normal, good valuation for a tech company that's really cheap, the stock would have to 4x. So essentially, I'm calling a 4x opportunity on Palantir in 10 years. Very simple math. And this simple back of the envelope math guessing is better than watching 50,000 videos on YouTube, looking at the short-term news. Who really cares? Because look, we're going from point A to point B. Point A is where Palantir is at right now. The stock's basically at $130 per share. Point B, in 10 years, the stock is $450 per share. Okay, doesn't really take rocket science, doesn't take a whole lot of your time buying programs, free webinars, none of that crap, okay? Really simple. Point freaking A, 130. Point B, 450. In between, chill out, wait, and get freaking stupid rich, okay? There you go. That's my analysis on Palantir, keeping it really simple. Let me quickly, I wrote in my notes here, I want to talk about the company culture and leadership, why I'm pretty bullish on Palantir essentially going up. One of the most important things is the leadership, and they have a really unique hiring practice. So what I wrote here in my notes is that basically a former engineer, Nabil Qureshi, revealed that Palantir's interviews were unconventional, focusing on unstructured conversations to assess intellectual depth and curiosity. So this approach has cultivated a workforce aligned with company's mission-driven ethos. Look, there's basically no doubt that Palantir has figured out who to hire, who's a good employee, who's good at contributing to the company's growth, and as they should. This is the most important thing possible for Palantir, because if you look at the stock-based compensation, it's very high. So why would you hire bad employees and pay them a crap ton of money, right? It doesn't make sense. So I'm personally, as an investor in Palantir, if I want to have an edge versus other traders, YouTubers, investors, retail traders, hedge funds, I'm trying to look at unconventional angles of Palantir and trying to understand it from different perspectives, right? So some people are just looking at, okay, are they winning contracts? For me, it goes into details such as hiring, who are they hiring, why? And one thing that was concerning to me is obviously stock-based compensation, which is why I just wanted to point out in this video that they have a unique hiring process and they're getting really talented people, same as Tesla, which we'll cover soon. Anyways, I feel like I'm ranting, but they have a really good hiring process, and let's just move forward here. The valuation concerns, despite impressive growth, Palantir stock is at really high multiples, but I already addressed why it's not really overvalued. It's fair value right now. Let's go into the next stock, which is going to be Nvidia. So here's Nvidia stock. It has rebounded essentially all the way back. So everyone who has basically said well, the market's crashing, I think you got humbled. I got humbled. Everyone got humbled that you got to hold stocks and not panic. And even I myself, my portfolio is doing good, but yeah, I wish I bought some call options at the bottom. Shoot, that would have been great. But hindsight's 2020. What we have to realize is market's bullish. It's always bullish. And if I actually followed all the tips on my YouTube channel and I would have bought leaps and I would have dollar cost averaged more, I'd be up a ton of money. And this just goes to show that we have to take action and have a long-term mindset. And day to day can be, sometimes we just make mistakes when the market goes down. With Nvidia, essentially, I got out of Nvidia and I've had ETFs. With Nvidia, I have been bullish for a very long time and I remain bullish for the long term. Of course, I've made 52 videos or, every single week. I've been giving you updates on Nvidia being a good candidate for future growth because it's the AI revolution, which I'm going to beat that dead horse basically, and just growth and valuation. Valuation is the most important piece of the three because the value of Nvidia is incredibly cheap for the growth that they're experiencing. Now, I also really like to see their strategic partnerships and global expansion. So Saudi Arabia, they have a collaboration. So Nvidia has entered a strategic partnership with Saudi Arabia AI company, and they're going to be supplying 18,000 GB300 Grace Blackwell AI chips. And this initiative aims to build AI factories in the kingdom with a projected capacity of up to 500 megawatts over the next 5 years. So long story short, their partnership with Saudi Arabia is really big because in general, the Middle East just has so much money. They have a lot of money. They're growing a lot. And you saw how Middle East basically just gave Trump a $400 million plane recently. So yeah, the Middle East is a great region to do business with. So Nvidia has a whole lot of expansion plans, and they have their AI chips that they have basically a deal with up until 2027. So I expect, Nvidia, just like Palantir, to get more contracts and to do more business. More business, more money. More money, more stock value, etc. Right? So things are looking really good for Nvidia. Nvidia makes their money mainly through GPUs, which is used for gaming, data centers, AI training interfaces, automotive ADAS, and visualization, architecture. I mean, you name it. They have applications everywhere. They have so many applications. I mean, I would be buying this bicep over tricep, all right? You should be in this stock because I'm getting worked up because there's so much opportunity. There's so much money to be made, and I'm a bit frustrated at people that have not really been invested in Nvidia hand over fist because this stock has been such a huge moneymaker. Looking at CEO Jensen Huang, he's known as the godfather of AI and hardware. This man has made so many technological advances. He's been with the company since 2012. Jensen bet on AI in 2012, long before it became mainstream. So this man's a pioneer. That's what I like to see in leadership. I like to see a leader who has a good vision, right? We're all investing in the vision of the CEO. At the end of the day, the CEO kind of, drives the ship, right? In what direction? Doesn't matter how good the workers are, it matters, but it doesn't matter if you have the best employees if you don't have a clear vision of where you want to go, all right? So if you don't have a vision where you want to go, you're going to just have a whole bunch of output, but it's the wrong type of output in the wrong direction, which is not the case for Nvidia. They clearly have an amazing direction. They have very aggressive R&D. They're not just pissing money away, right? You see some companies just piss money away. That's not the case. They have aggressive R&D, right? Nvidia has $8 billion they spend annually, which is actually 25 to 30% of revenue, but it's being spent properly, which is what I like to see. All right, so let's move over from Nvidia and let's go to SoFi. Let's make some money, bicep over tricep over SoFi. I've been right on SoFi, so it's pretty simple here. This is just an update of, not to brag, but I kind of told you so. SoFi is a good stock to own. It's up 32% in the past month. I made really good money with SoFi, and SoFi specifically is just transforming the way banks work. They're transforming the dinosaurs, and they're finally bringing in some innovation to the banking space. And a lot of that is done through their innovative products. They have a whole list of products, which I've covered last week. So I want to make this video shorter and try to get under the 20-minute mark. Look, what I like about SoFi the most is their upsell model. And uniquely, the upsell model is essentially get someone in the door, shake their hand, give them a good experience, and say, let's do more business. All right, that's what SoFi is doing. And you come in under a cheap product or a free product, you create an account, and then all of a sudden, boom, get a loan, get the credit card, invest, etc. Right? And as they get someone in the door for cheap, and then they upsell them later on more products, they make a lot more money. So simply said, I said that already multiple weeks in a row. So what you need to know ultimately this week about SoFi is we're likely to go higher. Momentum is strong and valuation is good, and $30 billion valuation is very, very reasonable. So looking forward to that. Now, other stock I want to cover is going to be Tesla. Tesla has had a massive recovery, so also 35% in the past month. So holding all the stocks that I talk about have all done well. They've all literally done well. So I just want to pat myself a little bit that we're kind of out of what it looks like to be a very tough time with like tariff issues. It looks like, Mr. Donald Trump kind of figured things out. Governments have figured things out with China. And it looks like we've finally stabilized, and we're finally in an environment now where, again, we can start running the wheel strategy very safely for consistent income. And I think the market is going to be very conducive for building bigger portfolios. The Q1 performance for Tesla wasn't super hot. They actually had a 9% decline year over year in their sales and their revenue, which did kind of hurt top line for sure. But the reason why the stock is up a lot is I think a lot of people, first of all, again, China. Second of all, there's a lot of good stuff coming. And next month we have the Robotaxi initiative where Tesla plans to launch its Robotaxi service in Austin, Texas in June 2025. I mean, we're like 30 days away. And yeah, they're going to start small, but that is going to be a huge, basically opportunity, a big dream of Tesla, like some futuristic stuff coming in where cars are going to drive themselves, lower the cost, less labor, right? And just massive scale opportunity. Imagine if every single vehicle in the United States was driverless. You just sit down and it just drives you. The type of costs that would be saved, and the unit economics would basically be very cheap for taking taxis. So, I mean, that would become probably a bigger form of transportation. Less people will own cars. This is very transformative and a unique opportunity for Tesla to really kind of lead in advancement in technology. And it sounds crazy right now, but 5 years from now, you guys know how fast tech is moving. That's a very big possibility. By the way, I have a challenge, which is starting on May 19th in about 4 days from now. And that challenge is going to include me, my coaching, and 8 trades where I'm going to make 4 to 5 figures depending on your portfolio. I'm going to be trading different stocks than I cover on YouTube. Stocks that are a little bit more niche that I do research on that I think are unique opportunities. And I'm going to be selling put options for bigger portfolios and doing spreads for smaller portfolios as well. Really unique opportunity to get my coaching, and this is the only time this year that I'm going to be running a challenge like this. So take up this opportunity and check out the first link in the description for more details. And I look forward to coaching and making some money in this easy market.